Hello, everybody. Today's lecture is on Chapter 2, Culture. But before we start talking about what culture is, I want to point out a very important U.S. value, and that's individualism. Now, you might ask the question, why are we talking about values? Because values are a very important part of culture. So let's first define individualism. And again, I'm going to define it according to how it's in your notes. So it means stressing the freedom of action of the individual over the state or collective or group, meaning that what is important to us is the freedom of the individual, not necessarily the individual's commitment to the collective community. It means that we also look at our social problems through the lens of individualism. So if you look at what's happening in our country right now, there's no better example of that when we look at what's happening with COVID-19. States across the country have imposed shelter-in-place or quarantine orders to keep people socially distancing to stop the transmission of the disease. But what we've also seen are people converging upon the Capitol in these different states and demanding that the governors reopen the economy. Now, to do so prematurely would put the collective at risk, which means that the disease will keep transmitting. And right now, we've got about 1.2 million cases of coronavirus, and we're hitting 80,000 deaths. So a lot of governors are having some difficulty deciding to do that. But that hasn't stopped individuals from demanding their what? Freedom. The freedom of the action of the individual, the freedom of action of the individual over what's best for everyone else. So my fears as a sociologist is the emphasis on individualism in our country and our ability to effectively fight coronavirus. I've always been concerned about our tendency to stress individualism over collectivism because I know there are times when we have to come together and implement the utilitarian principle, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And there's no better time to do that than right now. But sometimes individualism can manifest as selfishness. Now, there are times when absolutely individualism is important. We as individuals want the freedom to do whatever is necessary to make our lives worthwhile and to pursue the American dream. How is it written in the Constitution or Declaration of Independence? I believe something about the person has the right to the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. So we as individuals should be able to pursue life, liberty, and our version of what happiness is. But if it comes at the cost of others, it's something that we have to think about. And more collective societies like New Zealand and South Korea have been very effective in bringing down the rate of transmission of coronavirus or COVID-19. So there are times when individualism is great, but there are other times when it kind of works against the grain of our social structure.